March 7th, 2020, the day a young 17-year-old girl was found dead, lying in the street. Her cause of death was an enigma to the police. According to her friends and family, she was bright, kind, but also a curious girl. And so it wasn't a surprise when she left the house early that day and went on a walk. What was unusual was she didn't come back at her usual time. Instead, she was found dead, lying cold in the street as if she was a lifeless doll. Reports label it as a hit and run, but everything was too perfectly placed, almost as if it was planned. And before an autopsy could be done, her body was taken away to be cremated. Everything about this case was already odd, but it became even more of a mystery when something truly unbelievable was told to me through a very strange phone call.
Hi, my name is Terrence, and this is the Behind the Curtain podcast, where my team and I pick up unsolved cases and get to the bottom of them. This is the story of Clarissa McLean. Normally, a story like this would have just been ignored, just a hit and run with no found murderer. But someone insisted I check the case file, which was left untouched for almost a year. It took me some time to find it again, but when I did, I discovered something very shocking. It was a cold case, no killer in custody. Even more, the police didn't care enough about this girl to do an investigation, because she was too different. This was truly odd, but it was this call I received that made all the difference.
After Mildred rudely hung up in my face, I spent the rest of the day calling and texting her to meet me at a local park. And after a couple hours of this, she eventually texted back and agreed. I sat at an open bench, and when she finally appeared, the sun made her abnormally white flesh glow like a star in the night sky, and her chemically burnt hair was tied into a tight ponytail. She was quite skinny and was very jumpy and sporadic. She approached me looking very carefree, almost as if she didn't accuse her spouse of murder. But she did. And that's what we're here to find out.
Oh, Mrs. Montag, please sit. How was your drive?
It was quite alright, actually. I saw this billboard about a new parlor installment and...
She continued to go on and on about this new parlor installment, and she constantly jumped from subject to subject, and I began to think if she was an actual reliable source of information, which made me quite irritable. Mrs. Montag! She jerked her head towards me as if I scared her.
What?
Why did you accuse your husband of murder?
Well, because he did it, of course. What a silly question. You know what? You should go talk to Captain Beatty at the fire station. He works very close with Montag. My favorite show is coming on soon, so goodbye, Mr. Veal.
And then she got up and just walked away. I was beginning to think this was all a prank, but something told me I should go visit Captain Beatty at the fire station. Thankfully, the fire station was fairly close to the park. I arrived at the fire station. It was a basic building, painted all white with a giant salamander painted red above the entrance. I entered the building and saw a group of men sitting at a table playing cards. I approached the table. Hello, my name is Detective Terrence Veal. I'm here looking for Captain Beatty.
I'm right here, boy. What do you want from me?
I have a few questions.
What is that when one man builds a wall, the next man immediately needs to know what's on the other side? George R.R. Martin. Sometimes being too curious can cause problems. Now, what's your question?
He said this is more of a statement than a question, and I didn't mind it at all. Beatty carried himself as someone to be respected and not fooled with. Can you please tell me about one of your employee firemen? I believe his name is Montag.
What did that fool go and do now?
Oh, nothing. I'm currently doing an interview, and I've been recently in contact with his wife, who was barely any help at all. And she pointed me here to you.
Well, she pointed you to the right place. A friend is someone who knows all about you and still loves you. Elbert Hubbard. Montag is one of my best firemen, but lately he hasn't been himself. It's like he's in his own world now. I was going to go to his house later if you wanted to come and ask him these questions yourself.
I thought he was a very strange man for saying so many quotes, but I left with Beatty, and I decided to fill him in on what was really going on, and he agreed to help me in my case to find the truth. It didn't take us long to reach Montag's house. We parked the car. Beatty looked at me and said,
I nodded and prepared myself to find any information regarding to the case of Clarissa, who was wrongfully killed. Beatty and I approached the door. He knocked, and we waited for what seemed like an eternity, until finally Mildred opened the door, looking surprised to see us, but she let us in without any question. I saw a large man who looked green in the face and was drenched in sweat. This man was Guy Montag. Beatty began talking to him. While they were distracted, I began my search of the house. First, I checked his room, which was kept neat and orderly. I scoured his room, turning it upside down, looking for clues, and found nothing. Next, I checked the bathroom and found the same result. I decided to return to the parlor to see Beatty continue his conversation. And as I looked upon the scene, I saw a very guilty-looking Montag, who kept averting his eyes. I grew suspicious, and I followed his guilty gaze and saw him looking directly at the attic. I pulled on the string and watched as the ladder descended upon me, and I began my climb. When I reached the top, I saw an iron grill sitting by its lonesome, and a pair of white shoes. I bent down to further inspect the shoes and accidentally hit the grill. I heard something tumble and move inside of it, but I was too focused on the shoes, which were an open-toed. I heard something tumble and move inside of it, but I was too focused on the shoes, which were open-toed with a slight heel. It was a woman's size 4. As I ventured deeper into the attic, I began to notice the rancid smell of blood. I began to hunt for the source of the smell and found a white dress stained with the bodily fluid. This dress belonged to Clarissa, which means Mildred's suspicions were correct. Montag killed Clarissa and kept her clothing as a trophy. How disgusting.
Detective!
I placed the dress down and quickly made my way downstairs.
Goodbye, Mildred. And Montag, I expect to see you at work tomorrow after this conversation I've had with you.
I couldn't believe someone as mundane as Montag could kill someone he was so close to. She inspired him, fueled him to be different, and he killed her. Montag killed her, Beatty. I found her proof in his attic. Her dress and one of her shoes. And that's not it. There's a grill. I heard something moving it, but I was too focused looking at the evidence.
I had my suspicions, but I didn't believe it. Montag stole a book the other night. I saw it under the pillow that he was hiding. I'm sending the Hound over to his house to see if he'll stop and give us the book.
Beatty sent the Hound. Instead of Montag bringing the book to the fire station, 2 days later, they received an alarm from Mildred saying Montag has over 20 books. Beatty informed me of this, and I went to finally bring Montag down. When I arrived, I saw Montag's house up in a blaze, and he had the flamethrower now pointed at Beatty. And I watched as Beatty went up in a brilliant blaze of orange, which ignited the night sky like a light bulb. Then the Hound came rushing at Montag, and he sent it up in a bright ball of flames until the Hound's body couldn't take it and exploded, sending bits of steaming metal everywhere. But before this, the Hound was able to puncture him with his needle on his leg. I rushed to the scene and foraged for any sign of the evidence. I hunted for what seemed like hours, and finally, I found the grill and opened it and found a blood-stained dress inside of it. It seemed as if Montag planned on moving the dress to get rid of the evidence. I quickly grabbed and drove it to the police station, and after investigating and reviewing the evidence, they put a hit out on Montag.
Be on the lookout for a 6'4" man, covered in soot, walking with a limp. He has murdered 2 people, a young girl by the name Clarissa McClellan and Captain Beatty of District 451. He is dangerous, and if seen, alert the police as soon as possible.
I left the city in search of Montag, but hours after leaving, I heard planes above me flying faster than the speed of sound. They flew over the city, dropping bombs, obliterating everything in their wake. But even without a city, nothing would stop me from bringing Montag to justice.
This podcast is brought to you and paid for by Lyrical Lemonade, and music credits go to Landon Bennett, and producer credits go to Sebastian Valencia and Terrence Veal.